Okay. This looks a lot better. Woo! Wait until some people get on. So for those of you who don't know, I tried to do a live stream with my campaign manager, Tom Kennedy. Great guy. It's so, for some reason, my computer, it's not my internet connection, so it has to be something to do with my hardware. It's having a difficult time running a Google Hangout session while at the same time running a live stream. So we did record a little offline, and then we'll be putting up that segment, though. He was having problems on his end. I don't know if his internet connection's messing up or something to that effect, but we'll get it done. We'll get out there. But, you know, there's two reasons I wanted to have Tom on here. Hello?
Hi, this is Stacy from Dealer Processing to give you one last courtesy call.
So, by the way, there's no one watching right now. I'll get to it. For those of you that are maybe watching in retrospect, I may have to leave for a minute for a phone call here or there, because this campaign it's like I sent out my contact information to over 200 people, and I encouraged them to call me. So if one of them calls, I'll probably walk in the other room. I'll probably leave the stream running, but it wouldn't be something I would record. So there's a chance that I'll have to be disappearing during this. I hope I get the calls. Anyway, so the reason that it was important that I wanted to have people learn from Tom. So Tom was a friend of mine in college, was a debate partner, and he's great at like computer things, setting up, like, you wouldn't believe, like, we've set out Excel spreadsheets of the median income in all the counties in District 12. We've set up, how that compares to median state and national levels. We set up the biggest 10 employers in each county, exactly how we want to visit. We set up programs so that we could see each person in a convenient way to be able to email them as individuals as opposed to a mass email. So Tom's been doing a lot of work for me. Tom's not someone who agrees with me on every position. And the reason he agreed to work with me is basically because, one, he thought it'd be fun, because it is, because we both like politics, and second, because he understands, like I do, that my reason for running is you just want more normal people running. Why does it seem like you have to be super well connected, or you had to be involved in politics for 10 years, or, you have to be extremely wealthy? And it's like, meanwhile, we see those people elected again and again. And I'm not saying each one of them do poorly, but over and over, it's like us, the average people, our voice is rarely heard. Why is that? I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. It seems like oftentimes someone runs and they say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And now, granted, sometimes you try to do X, Y, and Z and it just doesn't work out. But oftentimes they don't even try. So, like, for me, I'm a Republican. Here's a big issue for me. Fiscal conservatism. Stop the national debt. Stop spending money we don't have. The Republicans promise this over and over. And then they get in the office and they spend more money than the Democrats did before them. That's one of my big criticisms with Trump that I'm seeing right now. So this is something that, that I actually care, and I'd actually do my best. Does that mean, I'm going to go to Washington and everything's going to change immediately? No, it doesn't work like that. But if you still advocate for what you think's right, you still do what you can, you still listen to the constituents, because you are one of them. You're a regular person. So you do what you can, and maybe, if more people start stepping up and saying, yeah, and I'm going to run too, and I'm going to run too, just regular people, maybe that'll convince that we'll start to get voices that actually listen to these regular people. And so that's why, I think Tom jumped on board with me, and I think that, I got plenty of friends. How's it going, Michael? I got plenty of friends that from various websites I'm on or just in real life that can't stand a lot of my positions. They're way more left-wing than me, and they... I've been getting pretty good remarks, I feel, of people saying, like, hey, we wish you well, even though we disagree with you. Because I do think that one of the things about having, what's the word I'm looking? I've been public in my online persona, right? Like, it's not hidden behind a fake name. Like, it's there. Like, hundreds of hours of me on YouTube. Thousands of pages probably I've written on different websites on my positions and stuff. I'm not trying to hide who I am. This is me, and I'm a decent, I think I'm a decent person. I'm civil. I'm never encouraging violence. I'm always judging people by them as an individual, not in the groups they're, part of. And I care about the working people, And I am one of those people. Sometimes I think you lose sight. It's like, I'll give you an analogy. Like in debate, I was a really good coach for people just getting into debate. And the reason was I only debated 4 years. So even though I was really good at debate, I knew how to take like these sophisticated high-end concepts that you would use against the greatest, like, you're debating Harvard's top team or something like that. But I could use those myself, but then I could also explain that to someone walking into the activity brand new. Like, this is what's going on. But if you've been involved at the highest levels of debate for 30 years, it's hard then to talk to someone that has no idea what's going on with debate and being like, here's what's going on. Or imagine you're Bill Belichick, or you're some great NFL coach. It's probably difficult for you to explain your defensive scheme to some casual football fan that's never been involved in coaching or playing the game. So I think that happens in politics where we see people that are like, you've either been in Washington so long or you're so much wealthier or you're so much more well-connected than the average person running for the House of Representatives, special election in Pennsylvania, District 12. So it'll be federal. But one of the things you see is if you're in an area like District 12 where the median income's lower than the state average, it's lower than the national average. I mean, you're basically talking like households making around $57,000, I think is the average for District 12. $57,000 for a household, husband and wife working. That's the average in District 12. If you're someone who, you're an attorney and you're making $250,000 a year or, whatever, you could still relate. I mean, I think Donald Trump does a good job as a billionaire, at least trying to advocate for the working class. So I'm not saying it's disqualify or anything like that. We should all be judged as individuals. But sometimes it becomes difficult, that's all I'm saying. The average person in these districts are living paycheck to paycheck. And that's what I'm doing. I know what it's like to say, right now, I know what it's like you have no idea the time and energy that I'm putting into running. Thank you, Michael. And I'm putting in a lot of time and energy and money into running. It just so happens that my wife's car needs inspected. The wheel bearing went out. I just had, I need new tires, it looks like now, and other things like that. But despite that, I'm not taking donations at all at this point. If I make it to the general election, then I might take donations that would go through the proper channels. But I'm not taking $1 for anyone. And I've had people offer me, but I'm just not. I'm not taking any money for this nomination process. It's something that I want to do. And so I'm going to do it. So I understand, what the constituents go through. And here's another reason I'm doing this. Like, I don't know if you notice this, I'm quite the opinionated person. The reason I started my YouTube channel was I wanted, you can see in my intro video, which I need to update. I got an ugly mug and I'm like, what am I doing? Like scowling or something? I don't know what I was doing. Mean mugging the camera on that photo. But one of the reasons I started the YouTube channel was I'd talk to politics with my friends around here that are like farmers, truck drivers, welders, things like that. And, they don't have time to look into in-depth in politics like I, have the time to do. And so they're very interested to talk to. And I said, I want to start a YouTube channel where like eventually I could be talking to these people, giving them a voice, because the media's not giving them the voice. Washington's not giving them the voice. So I want to like have a venue where I could do that. And I also wanted to have a venue where I could have people on that I disagree with and show that we could disagree and be civil. That we don't have to have this tribalism where it's like, if you don't agree with my politics, then you're a terrible, evil person. That's not the way that we should be looking at things, And so that's why I started the YouTube channel. And then you would have people say like, well, or if you're typing online at different, like Above Top Secret, other websites that I'm on, they would say, well, what are you doing? And it's a fair point. It's cynical, but it's fair. So I have a chance to run. Maybe I won't win. I'm fighting an uphill battle. I get that. But I'm doing something that I think could make a difference. Now, here's the thing. I'm a traditionalist in that I don't think that being a politician is a career. First off, I will advocate for term limits. I haven't decided if it's going to be 3 or 4 terms in the House, but that would be 6 or 8 years in the House and only 2 terms in the Senate, which would be 12 years. That means in just Congress, you would have the potential to have 18 to 20 years. That is more than enough time Time to get on with your life. The founding fathers, you have to understand, many of them that were serving, they were like, landowners, and they had farms and they had jobs and things to attend to. And so it was almost a pain for them to be like, I have to go serve my country by going to, this constitutional convention. I have to go serve by being an elected representative, etc. And they went and served, and then they came back and went back to their land or to their jobs. That's how I look at it. I'm not going there to be there forever. I go there, and here's the other thing, right? I will not only advocate for a law to push for term limits, but I will hold myself to that same standard. Meaning, even if I don't get a law passed saying that there are term limits, I'm still not going to serve more than 3 or 4 terms. I just won't do it because that's not who I am. I'll go there. I'll do my best to say, this is what I like to, here are the policies I advocate for. I'm here to represent the average people, but I don't want to be there so long I forget who I am. So that's it. Another thing, I'm not going to take a pension. I don't know how many people know this, but currently the way it works is, you make like $130,000 or something a year being a congressperson. And then you get, I think, 80% of that once you reach retirement age, even if you're not in Congress anymore. So that means over $100,000 a year of taxpayer money. And for what? What am I doing at that point? Nothing. My feeling is, because it's a service and not a career, that the moment that I am out of office, the taxpayer does not owe me one dime. I already had the privilege, right, of being there, of serving them, of getting paid pretty well while you're there. So why am I entitled to their money afterwards? Why am I entitled to more than someone that actually went and put their neck on the line in Afghanistan, It just seems ridiculous to me. But that's why I'm running, to give the average people a voice, and I'm trying every step that I'm doing it, I'm trying to do in a non-hypocritical way. Like, this is what I want to see in politics in general. Flap my gums too much today. I'm getting dry mouth. So, what does that mean? Trying to do things. I'm not just saying these are the policies I want advocated. I'm trying to show this is how I would like to see campaigns ran. This is how I would like to see people carry themselves. I could be on here right now doing a video for my campaign where, like, hi, my name's Robert Miller, and I'm running for your representative, And I have done, like, videos that are a little more professional like that. But there's no hiding from me. Anyone who comes and watches any of my videos could just watch the videos I did the week before I was running for Congress, right? I am who I am. And I think that's what we should ask of our representatives. No matter what, I'm going to... Yeah, thanks, Jesse. No matter what, I'm going to be someone that's kind of has a sense of humor. That's going to try to, like, live my life with a smile. That doesn't mean I'm not taking things seriously. I clearly am. It doesn't mean that sometimes I don't get upset. I do. But, so many politicians you see that are just playing these characters. Like, if you watch Elizabeth Warren or Cory Booker or Beto, and it's like, we need to have a system where we don't fear the other. Walls kill people. It's like, come on, man. That's not who you are. You're like a wrestling character or something. Just be yourself. That's what I'm doing. That's how I want to see politicians act. So that's how I'm running. I want transparency in government. So I'm being as transparent as possible. I'm trying my best to, not only have I individually contacted all of the conferees, and for those of you real quick that don't know how the process will work, because it's a special election, there's not a primary. So, like, the average person in the district doesn't get to vote. There are conferees that were chosen that'll get to vote. So there's like 202 of them. And there's a process that'll be set up that allow them to vote. And so I want to be as transparent as... I would love to talk to every single conferee on the phone. I would love to talk to them all in person. Sadly, I only have like 16 days just because it's a short process. But my idea is, I think that politicians should not pander, should be as transparent as possible. The voters should, try to inform themselves at least as much as they're able to, even if it's just one issue. Maybe you're someone who's like, Second Amendment's my issue. Maybe you're someone that says, I'm just concerned about jobs. Whatever. Do a little research into the candidates and say, hey, here's the candidate, that I think most backs my position. That's great, right? So if the voters are looking in, doing, just even a little bit of work to get informed, and the politicians aren't pandering, I know. I was a huge WWE fan back in the day. But if the politicians aren't pandering, then we'll get a system where, even if it's not policies I agree with, it's like, well, hey, that's a fair system. The politicians were honest. The best ideas won. That's what I want to see. So that's how I'm running. Now, like, I don't mean to brag, but like one of the things that I learned in debate and just in general is like reading a crowd and reading an idea. I know that there are policies that I have that aren't necessarily the best for District 12. And I'll give you an example. I've so far received, I emailed each of the conferees. I so far have only received one feedback back, and which was very nice, where someone actually read my material and watched a video of mine about it. And they said they liked a lot of what I had to say, but they couldn't vote for me. I couldn't be a representative because my stance on abortion and gay marriage. And I'll briefly outline those, though I'll be putting individual videos out about all of my policies. So you'll have a better idea. But my policy on abortion is, I think that I'm in line with most of America, where I'm okay with early trimester abortions, like early first term abortions. You know, though I'm against the idea of abortion. I would try to convince someone, please don't go through with this abortion. But I do think that it should be legal. But after that point, only if the child's life is in serious danger or the woman's life is in serious danger. And I am disgusted by these new abortion policies that are pushed in New York and Virginia and other places. And I think the Supreme Court was a joke when it ruled for Roe v. Wade, for Doe v. Bolton, for the Casey decision in 92. There is nothing in the Constitution about abortion. The Fourth Amendment with the right to privacy has nothing to do with abortion. And so it should be up. Our Constitution is very clear. If there's not something expressly said in the Constitution, then it is up to the state governments to decide. That is the way it should be. That is my advocacy. As someone who's running for federal Congress, I literally would have no say in the abortion debate whatsoever, because it is a Supreme Court issue, which I could effectively argue why the courts messed up, and we need to get a court in there that doesn't make law but interprets law, and therefore it would be left to the states, which means I still wouldn't have a vote. Only the state reps would have a vote. But that's my stance on abortion. On gay marriage, I 100% support gay marriage. I think that for various reasons. One, I think one of the biggest problems we have in this country is the crisis of the family unit dissipating. If two people want to enter a monogamous relationship and have a family, I'm all for that. I think that's, even if you're Christian, you should say, and you feel that the Bible says that homosexuality is wrong, but it's still better to have monogamous homosexuality than non-monogamous. So I still think the institution of marriage is a good institution in that sense. And I also feel, my feelings on it is like, let God decide, It's not for me to judge people. And so I have no problem at all with gay marriage. I fully support it. And beyond that, I think that hey, how's it going, Truth Seeker? I think that it's a mistake, in my opinion, for the Republican Party or people to be pushing that we should rescind gay marriage, because to me, it's a losing argument. If you really care about the other issues that Republicans care about, such as, illegal immigration or the Second Amendment or the abortion laws and things like that, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by, the hill you're going to die on being gay marriage. For me, it's like there's so many people that will be off-putting to that would listen to you elsewise. Now, having said, those are my positions. I know in this district, because it's one of the most red districts in the state, that I probably would have had a safer path of just saying, hey, I'm pro-life all the way. Hey, I'm anti-gay marriage. But oh, okay, yeah, cool, I know who you are, yeah. But that's not who I am, and I'm not going to pander. And the gentleman that got back to me and said, I can't vote you for these positions, I thanked him. I was like, great, thank you so much for at least listening to what I had to say. That's what the process should be. I'm open about my positions. If if people look at those positions and say, sorry, not for us, not only is that the way the system's supposed to work, and I'm fine with that, there's this old trope that's like, you'll hear people say, get out the vote. Y'all gotta go vote. Come on, let's go vote. Everybody get in the car, let's vote. And it's like, if someone says that to you, you say to them, well, who are you voting for? Oh, I'm voting Democrat. And you say, cool, I'm voting Republican. Will you still give me a ride? Yes, I would. I don't care if you're voting against me. You should go vote. Inform yourself, go vote. Because the idea, it's not about me getting elected. It's about the people just being as informed as possible and making the best choices. Sometimes I'm fully aware that will lead to a system where the ideas that I like aren't the ones that win. That's fine. That's the way the system's supposed to be. I'm not entitled to a victory. No one is. You're just entitled to, a fair system. And I have to say, by the way, I'm cynical. I think that you hear me a lot in this channel talk about the establishment Republicans and Democrats. I didn't know what to think going into this process. I have to say, as of right now, everyone I've dealt with, even like the people that have said like I'm not going to vote for you, have been totally respectful to me. They've given me all the information I've requested. I've had some newspapers cover me, call me for interviews. And so, if I lose, that's all I could ask for was a fair shot. Now, I know that I'm fighting an uphill battle for various reasons. I'm young. I don't have the experience that a lot of people are going to have. That's my first weakness, which I guess I'll talk about my weaknesses here. Right, you can't make everyone happy. In fact, I was talking to a gentleman earlier today, and I said this, and this is the totally truth. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks, hon. You will never find if you're an honest person, you'll probably never find a person in the history of the world that 100% agrees with you and everyone. Even your wife, which my relationship can attest to that, right? My wife disagrees with me regularly. But, and so because of that, you'll never find a political party that's 100% your ideology, right? It just won't happen. And so, you have to be yourself. You don't try to change yourself because you think this is what the party wants to hear. I'm just not going to do that, And so, I sincerely didn't mind that guy saying, hey, I'm not going to vote for you. He did everything the right way, though. He looked into my stuff and said, not for me. Okay, I disagree. I'm not going to, I'm not the type of person that if I start getting a bunch of feedback like, oh my goodness, I got like 40 emails saying they're against my gay marriage stance, I'm going to change it. No, I'm not. I'll say, fair enough. I lose. That's fine. But that's the way I think it should be. So what are my weaknesses? The first is the experience. So the people, we have this questionnaire got sent, and basically there's 3 areas they're looking at. One is like embarrassing stuff you could have done in your past, whatever. I think I understand the need for that. I don't have anything super embarrassing. I'm not worried about that. But like yearbooks and things like that, that is what it is. I understand why they do that, but that's one of the things I hate about politics. Who cares what someone did in high school? Now if you have a systemic pattern of racism or bigotry or something, that's important. But, like this Ralph Northam character from Virginia, and this is a Democrat, mind you, right? He had it could have been a joke. I don't know. I don't know the context of it. It's certainly not good dressing up in blackface or KKK. But the guy served as a doctor in the inner city for 30 years. And let me repeat, this is someone whose policies I hate and don't want him elected for all sorts of reasons. That guy for 30-something years being an inner city doctor, and we don't have any allegations of him being a racist. So is it possible that we should just forgive this guy and say, okay, you made a bad decision when you were young? I think so. And it's someone that I disagree with politically. And anyone who watches this channel knows I've said that not only before I was running for office, I've defended liberal comedians that I don't think are funny that have gone after Trump. I defended Al Franken. I don't think he should have stepped down. I've defended due process and innocent until proven guilty for Republicans and Democrats alike. Like, that's how I did dress up as a peanut for the peanut butter fest. But that's how and so that's how I'm trying to run. And I'm not worried about that, the back. Now, the other 2 issues were you had that stuff. Then you had basically your resume or your experience, and then your policy positions. My weak suit will be that top section, the experience. I get that, right? But I think, in a way, I think it's a strength of mine. If you think that the political system is kind of messed up right now, then maybe you want someone who's a total outsider. Maybe you don't want someone that's like, oh, I had 4 years of experience at the local level, then 4 years at the state level, and now I'm trying to get into the federal level. Maybe not. Maybe that's how I look at it. That was one of the appeals of someone like Donald Trump to me. It was like, yeah, let's get someone in there new. The system's kind of not working right now. At least that's my take on it. But I get it. There are going to be people that are, veterans, that are war heroes. They're going to be people that, are impressive business owners. And so I have to fight that uphill battle. I get that. But like I said, I think it is a possible strength to be an outsider. And because I don't have that impressive resume, it means I'm more like the average constituent. And I'm more likely then to remember, this is where I came from. These are the real people I'm representing. And so I think that's a strength of mine. The second thing is I don't live in the district right now. And a lot of people are really focused on this. And I get it, right? Let's say your rural district in middle Pennsylvania, which District 12 is, right? And all of a sudden, someone comes in and they're like, I'm from New York City. I've lived in Pennsylvania for 2 years. I'm going to run for district. I live in Philly now. I'm going to run for District 12. I can see the people saying, like, this guy or woman knows nothing about me. So why would I, are their affiliations really going to be with the best interest of helping the constituents? You're right, and I will still try being with alternative media. Don't worry. Which I will talk about. What happens if I win? What happens if I lose? Coming up. But so I get that idea. So I'm not from the district. But here's the thing, right? I've lived in rural Pennsylvania my entire life. I've basically lived within a 20-mile radius in Clarion County my entire life. Now, in 2012, there was redistricting. Pennsylvania is terrible with redistricting. If you look at the map, it's absolutely crazy. It was so bad that the courts had to rule to change in 2018, actually, because they said the districting was so corrupt. That's how we ended up. Used to be, I was in District 5, now I'm in District 15. So if we go back and you look at the map in 2012 of District 5, which is where I lived, included in District 5 is parts of Tioga County, all of Potter County, all of Clinton County, all of Center County, all of Mifflin County. And those right now are all District 12. So it's not that I didn't live in the district, it's that they redistricted me out of the district. But I've lived there my whole life. I was in that district with them. The second thing is, absolutely, as soon as I win the nomination, I would move there. Without a doubt. The third thing to alleviate fears on this is, it's, even though that I technically am not in that district right now, which, by the way, if you're wondering, legally, that as long as I'm a resident in Pennsylvania, I'm allowed to run for any district. But I'm not talking about legally. I'm trying to assuage people's concerns. Legitimate concerns, by the way. But the third reason is, it's the most, District 15 and District 12 are the most rural districts in Pennsylvania. My life living in Clarion County is almost identical to the lives of those that were living in Central PA and District 12 in these rural communities. We suffer the same problems. We're having an opioid epidemic. We're having problems with businesses closing down and leaving. We have problems with infrastructure. We have problems with regulation and taxes. We have problems that no one wants to hear our voice at the state or the national level. All of these problems are very similar. There's my campaign manager, Tom. He's on, which is great. What was I saying? So I understand that. My question is this. Who would you think would be more likely to understand your situation? Someone who lives just an hour outside of your district in a region it's very similar to yours, or your next door neighbor, but, they're making $250,000 a year, or, they're well connected in the political system. I think that, I understand the idea of you don't live in this district, so will you really represent me? My point is that the lines are arbitrary, right? It's the lifestyle that's like the demographics, the way of life that's important. And I think, a very similar experience. And I am doing my best, as if it's evident. I sent an individual email to each of the conferees. I have other plans to make sure that I'm more connected to the constituents than any candidate else that's running, at least that I've seen. Hopefully other candidates will take my lead. Again, it's not just about me winning. If this is all, if all my candidacy does is some other people say, hey, I liked Rob's idea of saying we should be more involved with constituents. Hey, I liked Rob's idea that say that we need to be more transparent. That would be wonderful. That would be well worth it on its own. So, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. I really am. I think that I, more than other people, will use social media to directly communicate with the constituents. I not only will live in the area, but I would try to push for legislation that says that we should use modern technology for secure video conferencing, so actual people in Washington, your Congress people, could spend more time at home with their constituents. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, Washington, D.C. is a very unique place. It's a wealthier place than my district. It's definitely more urban, obviously. But even for cities, even for wealthy cities, it's unique because everything revolves a kind of round of politics. So, everyone's a staffer or a politician, or somehow involved in politics, or you own a restaurant that's relies on the people that are the working in politics to come frequent your business and things like that. And so if you live there a long time, those are the people that you start to associate with and you start to understand. It's not that those people aren't real people that deserve their voice as well. They absolutely do. But if that's the only voice you're hearing, and if you're predominantly hearing it, you forget what the constituents back home are like. And so I want politicians to spend more time with their constituents back home. Those are the people they're supposed to be representing. So there's no reason I don't see, unless it's like a very important, like secretive or classified vote or something of that nature, that you obviously then have to be in DC in person. Why can't, for the day-to-day business of Congress, we not be using secure teleconferencing? I mean, we already have C-SPAN that's got a camera that is showing everything. So I think that would be a good idea. Maybe it's something that we should consider, and that's one of my concerns, to spend more time with the constituents. In addition, I want to, if I was elected, I would try to every week have an easily accessible social media accounts and YouTube channel where I would be able to say, this is how I voted this week. Here's kind of briefly why I voted. Here's who I visited with this week, or areas I went. Here's kind of what's coming up next week. Now, please, every week, please send me questions from average people, whether they be difficult questions, criticisms, and I'll try to answer a few of them online. That way, everyone could see. I mean, I think that my congressman right now is okay, but if I have to really ask myself, like, do I know what they're doing on a week-to-week basis? No. And I think if you ask most people, even if they like their politicians, they'd be like, yeah, that's true. I don't really know they might have a website that say, hey, I voted on this. But, what are you doing? What's going on? Talk to the people. We had this idea of FDR and the fireside chats where we're using radio. Well, now we have new technology. I mean, it is, for all the problems we have in the world, which certainly there are a lot, and in this country, isn't it amazing that I could talk to people instantaneously all over the world? An image of me going out. Why aren't we using that, technology to connect to our constituents? And I mean this Republican and Democrat. Like both parties should be doing this. I think the more we have people involved and the more transparent we are and the more dialogue going from the politicians to the average people, the better our system will be. And I think that alone will start to see, even if we disagree with each other, when you start to see this transparently, and it's not filtered through a media that's like, Fox News putting up the guy on this side and then CNN putting up the guy on this side. They're just yelling at each other. We can start to realize again, oh yeah, even if we massively disagree, we all want the same things in general. And so I understand this idea of, you don't live in the district, why are you running here? I get that. But I think that, I think that they're just arbitrary lines, and I think that it will be my mission to advocate and speak up for the people in this district. And not just the people that voted for me, as I was saying. The people that didn't vote and the people that voted against me. That's another thing we lose sight of. I want to have an open door for anyone to come in and say, hey, I disagree with this. Does that mean I'll say, oh my goodness, you disagree with me? Well, then I change. Absolutely not. But why do I'm lucky enough, it's funny. One of the things you heard me argue against identity politics. And for those of you that know me in debate, like this concept of why didn't you acknowledge your privilege? Like, I do acknowledge my privilege. Like, first off, just by being born in this country, I'm one of the most privileged people that have ever existed in the history of the world. Second, by actually not even just country, by being born in this time, I'm already more privileged than almost everyone in the history of the world. So I get that privilege. And one of the things I am privileged for, even amongst those groups, is that, I'm privileged to have a supporting family. I'm privileged to, have some kind of training and competency to be able to read and to have free time to look into politics and stuff. Does that mean I'm any better than the mechanic down the street? Does that mean the mechanics, that the professor and the mechanic, one of them's better than the other, the mechanic's better than the professor, or the professor's better than the mechanic? No, they just have unique experiences. They both have knowledge that I could learn from, that we could all learn from. And so I think that everyone's voice is important, regardless if I agree with you or not. And that's what I'll often talk to people. I'll be like, hey man, you should come on my YouTube channel. And they'll say, oh, I don't know half as much about politics as you. So, and maybe you do. You just don't think you do. Because politics isn't just the laws and the people that voted for them. It's how it affects the everyday person's life. And so you know the real end of it, right? You know better than me. If you're a truck driver, you understand trucking regulations and the politics behind them more than I do. I might understand, like, well, this is who voted for it, or this was the specific law that was passed and when it was passed. But you know what it was like when you were driving before that and when you were driving after that. And you know if that regulation is helpful in certain ways, harmful in certain ways. And that's the truth with everything. Almost everything's got some good and bad in it. So those voices are important. And I'm not going to be someone that if I won would all of a sudden be like, oh, I'm in Washington. Yeah, I'll just deal with the people in Washington. That's it. I'm here for myself. I'm not there for myself. And I think that all these voices need to be heard. So that is something that I would try to do. I would spend as much time in the district talking to average, everyday constituents that I could, regardless if they agreed with me or not. And I'm someone I think that takes criticism well. And I think that, one of the big things that I'm running on is, why did the Founding Fathers put, freedom of speech as the First Amendment? Why is it? Because it's, for all of our other rights, it is the most important one. And they understood that, like, debate and talking to people that disagree with you and getting as many viewpoints as possible, that not only sharpens your beliefs and makes you stronger in what you advocate, but it actually allows the cream to rise to the top. That's when we talk about diversity. That's the diversity that's important. We want people with different thoughts, different ideas. So I like constructive criticism. And I would be good, I think I will try my best more than, I think it's one of the problems I see with a lot of politicians where it's like, they're just speaking to their base. I'll try my best to represent everyone. So, that's a big weakness I'm dealing with. That's a lot of what I hear. It's like, but you're not in the district. You're not in the district. And to me, it's like, what does that problem mean? Well, it means you're not going to care about us. You're not going to care about us people here. And it couldn't be, more wrong. I think that I hope I get a chance to talk to many people in person because I'm not lying. It's not who I am. I'm not saying I never lied, but I'm genuine. I'm being honest about this. This is what I want to do. I want to give these people a voice. I think that, and the last weakness I have is I'm poor and I'm not well connected. There's a lot of people I've talked to that'll say, I really like your ideas, it's great, but my friend's running, so I'm going to vote for him. Now, first, let me just say, you have the right to vote for any reason that you want, and that's as good of a reason as any. It's not how I would personally do it, but maybe your friend's a really good person, and that's why you're going to vote for him. So that's absolutely fine. I'm not upset about that. But it is an uphill battle, If you've been involved in the District 12 politics and the GOP for years and years, it's going to be tough to say, you know what, we know who this guy is, but we're going to take a chance on this other guy. I get that. So I need to talk to people face to face as much as possible to let them know who I am so that they can make a more informed decision, hopefully. And my, as far as not being connected and not being wealthy, again, I think that's a strength because, I don't like the idea of nepotism, and I don't like the idea like our political system is so much about like, no, you could give my info to anyone you want. I don't care. I don't like the idea. It's like, it's a who game. And oftentimes it's not just politics. Oftentimes many things in life, maybe your job and someone gets a raise or someone gets a promotion over you. And it's like, well, it's because they knew the right people. I don't want public service to be that. And that's what politics is, serving the average public. I don't think it should be like, well, you can only run once you have to wait your turn. You have to put in your time. You have to know the right people. I hope not. I hope that with modern technology, we could, reach the average person. Because the average person isn't connected, The guy that's, truck driving, 5 days a week. He's gone 12, 14 hours a day. He's not connected. The stay-at-home mom, that's doing everything she can to make sure her kids do well. She's not well connected. The lady that works at the bake shop in town, she's not well connected. They're connected to their friends and family, And so that's, I don't want it to be a system where only the well-connected could run because you know what that system leads to? Only the well-connected's voices are heard. And we see that in Washington. That's why you see so many people, You talk to the average people. Whether you're conservative or liberal, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you talk to people and it's like, let's look at it from the Democrat side, right? Like, for me, one of the things that I was most with the Democrats was after the Iraq War. There were a lot of Democrats that I thought fairly called that out. There are a ton of Democrats I know right now that still hate these foreign regime change wars, just like I do. I'm glad to see that the Republican Party, at least Trump's trying to move that way, regardless of what you think of him, at least in Syria and Afghanistan. But you talk to those people and they're like, who are we supposed to vote for? You know, we voted for Democrats. We thought Obama would stop this. He didn't. You know, like, he was this Nobel Peace Prize winner. We're just tired of the bombs, you know? And so what are they supposed to do? If you're Republican, you're like someone that's in the Tea Party. You know, we fiscal conservatives. We want people that are going to balance a budget. We want people that are going to repeal Obamacare. Okay, you vote for people that say that and nothing. Now, that's not to say that some politicians didn't try. Again, there's no shame. You know, you can't do anything by yourself. But, you know, a lot of them got elected on those promises and didn't even try. Or you could take the Occupy Wall Street people. That's more left-wing, right? Well, we need, you know, maybe they're out there voting Democrat because it's like we're tired of these, you know, I don't think all bankers are corrupt. I don't think all millionaires are corrupt. But there was a lot of corruption. And what happened? Both the Republican and Democrat Party, you know, and the irony is the Occupy people and the Tea Party people, it's like, yeah, you know, you guys are basically talking about the same problem. You're just coming at it from different ends. They could be, you know, allies in many ways, but, you know, of course, our media won't let that happen. But, you know, and again, there's a lot I disagree with the Occupy people, don't get me wrong, but they're identifying the same problem, I think. And so who were you going to, you know, who in Washington, you get all these people saying, yeah, we're going to get elected and we're going to do something about it. And then what happened? You know? So maybe it's because of the system. Maybe it's because you have to be wealthy to run. Maybe it's because you have to be well-connected to run. And so it's those wealthy, well-connected voices that end up dominating the discussion. We're at a unique period of time. Just like, you know, I was a communication major before I switched to speech communication and used to talk often about the gatekeepers of information, the gatekeepers of news, where you had these, you know, it used to be we had more gatekeepers. There were still gatekeepers, but each town had their own newspapers and stuff like that. And slowly, conglomerations have occurred where it's like now 6 corporations own all the major media networks and newspapers. But as they tighten their fist, right, things slip out and we're seeing social media. I could get on and talk to you. There's tons of YouTubers. There's tons of people that are independent on the left and the right that are saying, you know, wait, there's more. They're not the gatekeeper. You could get all this knowledge yourself. We should be using this technology in elections too. We should be trying to say, let's have average people that are outside this gatekeeper issue be running. And maybe if we have that, then we'll start to hear more from regular people's voices. So that's what I think about that, my weaknesses there. What are my strengths in running? Well, I already said a lot of my strengths that, you know, I think because I'm not a wealthy person. And here's the other thing. Like, I had someone say in my one YouTube video, I don't think I'd be bragging about not being wealthy. Well, it's like, well, yeah, I'm not bragging about not being wealthy. And I like money. That's another thing. I had someone be like, what, is something wrong with you? You don't like money? I've never been the type of person that money was the most important thing, though. You know, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to cash this ticket. Like, I'm not saying that. But, you know, I have a master's degree. And I've never made more than $15 an hour in my life. Now, I could, for more money, no doubt move, use that degree, and make more money. I might end up in a place where it's more expensive to live, but nonetheless, I could do that. But I really enjoy working home healthcare in the house I'm in now, and I feel like I'm making a difference. And I'm not struggling to the point where I don't have a roof over my head, and I can afford all my bills. And me and my wife aren't people that need to be out spending a ton of money and have fun. I think I'm a really happy person. I think our family's really happy. And so that's it. I don't need to get extremely wealthy. And I think that speaks well of me going into Washington. Because when I say I'm not taking a pension, I don't know why no one's ever said this. Like, I'm not taking, okay, let me phrase it this way. You heard about Cortez, like when she ran, Ocasio-Cortez, like she was a bartender in New York. Now granted, the cost of living is much higher in New York than where I'm at. But nonetheless, she was making, I think, like 80-something thousand a year or something like that. Like, I'm making like 40. I may be the poorest person in recent memory if I would be nominated to a major party. And when I said, like, everything I'm doing, it's not just the policies I'm advocating, but I'm trying to run a campaign like I would see other campaigns ran. So I'm not, like, digging up dirt on people. I'm being as transparent as possible. I'm not trying to pander. I'm trying to get like as public information as me as possible instead of like hiding or something. And one of the things I'm trying to do is if I, as basically the poorest person that would be entering Washington, could say, I refuse to take this pension. Maybe we could start the step to show, you know what? Why can't the wealthier people that get in do that? You know, is Mitt Romney, you know, making his millions at Bain Capital, which he has every right to make. Don't get me wrong. I don't know the specific ethics of how he made his money. I'm not commenting on that. And it's not unethical to just make money. I'm not saying that. But if you have that much money, do you really need to be taking taxpayer pensions? I don't think so. So if I could do it, you know, why can't other people? And again, maybe that's something, maybe it'll start a movement. Maybe it'll make it out there. It's like, hey, here's this poor guy that was like, nope, I'm not going to take the pension. Maybe some other politicians will say, yeah, I won't take the pension too. You know, Trump, I'm granted, people poo-poo it because he's a billionaire, but he's not taking his salary. That's a good thing. I mean, while you're there, you get a salary, that's fine. But it's the pension that really just, it's like, why does the taxpayer continue to owe you money? Like, you were pretty privileged to get to, you got paid while you were in Washington. You got to, hang out with the movers and shakers of the world. You got the privilege of serving your constituents, and then they owe you after you're out of office? No, I don't think so. So that's, I think that and the fact that, I could be making more money right now, but I'm not. Like, the not having a lot of money shows that I'm living my life like a lot of the constituents. And second, it shows that's not, it's the same, it's true too, you talk to these people like, and again, I'm talking specifically about like rural, small town people, particularly in Pennsylvania. You talk to them, most of them don't want to make it rich. They just kind of want to have their life. They want to be comfortable. Even studies show, most studies show that once you start to get to a certain point with money where it's like, you don't need any more money to pay your bills and, have a little bit of luxury, it actually makes people less happy. And you can see that in these people in rural towns. Like some of the poorest people, or some of the happiest people I know have some of the most difficult jobs. They ain't making a killing. A great example is watch the show Dirty Jobs. Mike Rowe talks about this all the time. You got people crawling around in sewers, on their hands and knees cleaning stuff 8 hours a day, and they're some of the happiest people in the world. They're not making a killing. They're not rich. They want personal freedom, personal liberty. They know they're doing something of value. They have great families, great communities. They don't need the mega million deals. They don't need to sell out, and that's how I feel. I know, and I'm not, and again, like I said, I'm not going to stay there forever. Even if I wouldn't get the term limit laws passed that I want, I would hold myself to that standard. 3 or 4 terms, that's it. If I would win this, ironically, it would be half a term. So maybe I'd be there 3.5 terms, and that'd be it. I would not go after 4 terms. Let me see what we got right here. Right. You're absolutely right about the small town press. Yeah, I mean, so I think those are my another strength I think I have is that I am a genuine person. That I am empathetic. I'm willing to, I think it speaks to me that I have a lot of friends that, and I feel the same way about them. That we couldn't be more different on political ideology on a lot of things, but we're still good friends. You saw, I did a live stream with my friend Aaron at one point. I have other friends, some of which, have been posting on chats and stuff, that we disagree mightily on political ideology. And we're still good friends. You know why? Because we recognize that we still kind of want the same things. We're good people that want good things to happen to the average or the poor people. We don't want to see homeless people. We don't want to see sick people. And we understand that it's just differences, that you don't have to hate each other for these differences. And they know, and like I hope, they know that I'm willing to listen to them. At least I hope they know that. And I know they're willing to listen to me, even if we disagree. And that's important. And I am who I am no matter where I'm at. I had the privilege, I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, kind of poor. All my friends basically poor. No one extremely wealthy. Some more than others, but everybody basically the same. Everyone pretty happy. And then I went off to college and I joined the debate team. And the debate is, you have to understand, happens to be a more urban or wealthy, people that participate tend to have been more wealthy, because at the high levels of debate, what ends up happening is you end up with people that had scholarships because they debated in high school. If you're from rural Pennsylvania or wherever, how many public schools had sophisticated debate teams? At least around here, not many. The schools that did were private schools. So then you end up, a lot of the people in college that were debating went to private school and high school. That doesn't speak ill of them whatsoever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a different background. And debate happened to be very left-wing. If college is left-wing, debate is the left of the left. Like, that's just, like, sometimes ridiculously extreme, I thought. But, okay, it is what it is. But even those people, like, got along with me, and I learned, I have to admit, if I'm honest, at first I was like, yeah, the heck with these people. Not all of them. The ones that I was friends with in my team, I was like, oh, they're good people. But, like, you debate someone, you're like, what does this person have in common with me? But then you get to talk to them, and you're like, they're people, too. They just come from a different background. No, I disagreed with a lot of what they were saying. Like, I remember having conversations. This was a legitimate conversation I had in the debate community once. Someone said something to this effect to me, not in a debate round, just like eating or something, just hanging out. They were like, yeah, there's really no reason to own a gun unless you're like, some kind of crazy person, or maybe you're going to commit a crime, or you want to intimidate people. And I was like, that's not true. I was like, for one, I'll tell you, I was like, every single person in the town I grew up with owns guns because they're all hunters. In fact, and, I know my brother's watching this. He could contest to this. Like, we grew up in a town where it was like, if you didn't get a deer in the winter, you were kind of in trouble. Like, you needed that to get by. That was your food source for the winter. And it was cool because you would see, like, maybe, you could get, and it depends year to year, but you can get it, you get a doe tag, a buck tag. Sometimes you can get a second doe tag. But what you would see happen is, like, maybe there was one household that didn't get a deer. So everyone else would be like, oh, man, I got some extra meat. And, like, it was pretty cool like that. That wasn't nefarious. People didn't have rifles, because they were, seeking to intimidate people. I lived in a town that actually 99% of the people didn't even lock their doors. It was just, it's town, So it wasn't for intimidation. It wasn't, Anyways, I said this, and they're like, what do you mean? What did you hunt? I was like, deer. You name it. Deer, rabbit, squirrel. They're like, you've eaten squirrel. And I was like, yeah, they used to, of course I've eaten squirrel. It was funny. My brother's on here. This is something that was funny. My mom will not eat wild game. Like, she just will not. She'll eat meat, but she won't eat wild game. And I mean anything. You could literally catch a trout, and she will not eat that trout. But you could buy trout from the grocery store and she'll eat that. I don't know what it is about it, but she'll cook it. She'd help clean it. She just won't eat it, So, yeah, my mom was always, my mom was always cooking squirrel and stuff like that, And, their parents were even crazier. I remember my grandma, dandelion greens and squirrel meat and stuff like that, That's just the way it was, And they thought it was they got a kick out of it. But it just goes to show, we were all having fun, though, talking about it. It's like, yeah, like, you don't realize people from different areas of the world, they're all decent people, but it was something different. It was like, wow, you eat squirrel, like I was some caveman or something. And the funny thing is, I guess the point I'm trying to get to with all this is, so I'm with that group on the weekends, and then I come back and I'm with the guys eating squirrel and the mechanics, the farmers. And the funny thing is, I was looked at in the debate circuits like I was kind of like, some, crazed mountain man, redneck or something that was doing all this stuff. But with my friends back home, I was a nerd, and it's honestly the way it was. And I got to, I was really lucky to have that in life. I was really lucky to say, I'm one of the few lucky people that got to say, wow, I've met kind of both ends, and there's certainly more than that. There's certainly more types of people. And certainly this is an overgeneralization. Everyone's a unique individual. But I'm just saying, I got to hang out with some group of people that came from one area and some group of people that were kind of totally different. And I learned, even though ideologically I think I'm more with the people back home, like as far as politically I'm more conservative and things like that, I learned that, like, we need to bridge that difference. I learned how to, like, at least get my point of view across. Does that mean everyone in the debate community was like, oh my goodness, Rob's a genius, I just agree with him? No, that's not what I'm saying. But they knew, at the end of the day, I hope, and I think this is true, that even people that didn't know me very well, me and my debate partner, we actually had to be told by my coach at one point, you guys have to get more contentious when you lose, because you would have a close round, and let's say you have a judge, it's like, wow, my goodness, this is a really tough round, I don't know how to decide. And our coach told us, he was like, here's what happens. That judge will look up and they're like, I know Rob and his partner, they're pretty chill. So if I vote against them, they're not going to scream at me. But that other team, they're going to be upset. And so we'd lose and we'd be like, all right, was there anything we could have did better? Hey, thanks, fair enough. Good luck to everyone. Head out of the room, And we had to start being like, what do you mean? What about this? What about this? Not like being a total jerk, but we had to get more contentious. And of course, our coach was right. We ended up winning more when we did that. But I think that most of the people in the community knew that we were, me and my partner were pretty good guys. We were almost total opposites, but I think that people knew we were genuine. We were who we were. We weren't pretending to be something there and then going home and being something different. That's just who we are. And I think that that's an important lesson I learned in life. I think that and I've met, it's, to me, I told my partner that at his wedding, that's the highest compliment I could give him, that you could put him in a crowd with, 20 hunters that were about to go off on a moose hunt, and he could be himself and still fit in and people like him. And then you could put him with 20 vegans, that were about to protest those moose hunters, and he could fit in with them and be himself as well. And that's really what I try to be. I try to understand and fit it, I think I could, talk and get along with most people, but I'm not pandering to them. I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm not saying, oh yeah, I agree with you here, and then going to another group and being like, no, I've totally changed who I am. And I think that's what we need in Washington. And I hope, like I said with the abortion and the gay marriage policies, it would have been nothing for me to just be like, oh, it will probably get me more votes to say I'm against gay marriage. But that's not who I am. I'm going to be, I'm trying to run like I would like to see other people run. Even in this video right now, specifically, okay, so I put up a 10-minute video that you can check out. That's why I decided to run. And when I first did it, I wrote something out. And I have a pretty meager setup here, but so I wrote it out, and you can't see my computer right now, but my camera's sitting on top of my computer. So my camera's here, and then my computer's down here. And so I just on my computer had what I wrote out, and so you could see me kind of my eyes moving. It didn't look good, but it just sounded, I don't know, static. It wasn't me. I'm not going to pretend, that I'm something that I'm not. I'm not going to do these videos and be stuffy or anything. And neither's Tom, my campaign manager. That's just not who we are. And so, I think I sound much better, and I think you learn way more about me. And we all learn more about each other when we're having conversational talks like this. Now, does this mean that I'm incapable of giving a speech, like a teleprompter speech? Absolutely not. But it's way easier to walk in and give a teleprompter speech than to actually be yourself and impart your actual beliefs. If you're one of the conferees, if you would happen to watch this, I just want you to know, every policy position that you've seen that's been written about, that's attached to me, every video, every idea, it is me. It is 100% me. I'm not focus grouping things. I'm not asking, other people their position. I've asked plenty of people, how do I say this better? Or, I've asked people what they think about certain things. But my policy positions are my policy positions. I work 60 hours a week. And I'm up until 2 in the morning doing this stuff because I think it's important. So I am. I spent 6 hours yesterday sending individual emails to every single conferee. No, not every single one, because some of them didn't have emails listed, and a couple of the emails kicked back. But I will do my best to get in touch with those people as well, because I'm taking it seriously. A lot of people, they'll campaign, and it's like they got a team. They got all these people that are doing stuff. It's just me, my wife, and, Tom, my campaign manager. Now, having said that, I have a lot of cool people I got a meeting tonight with a guy. This is for my YouTube channel originally, but he's going to help me with the campaign, coming up with music. This is something that I think that, now maybe some of you watching are Democrats, you're not Republicans, but I'm also trying to help the Republican Party. And let me just make it real clear first. I don't agree with 100% of everything of everyone that's a Republican, etc. I already said that. But I also want to make it clear, and this might not be popular, this might cost me a vote to say this, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I will always be country first over party first. Always. And that means that I'll be able to say, if someone in my party does something corrupt, hold them accountable. I've said this with Trump the entire time. I support Trump. If it is found out that he broke a major law or something, he should be held accountable, period. I'm not going to excuse corruption because it's on my side or anything like that. I'm not going to say, do what I think's wrong for America because I think it would help my party. I won't do it. One of the issues I could talk about particularly, do I want increased border security? Yes. Do I think Trump should declare an emergency to do it? No. That is an abuse of executive power, in my opinion. That's someone that I support in my party doing it, and I'm still calling that out. because I'm not going to be a party first person. Now, I don't know that that's what some people in the Republican Party want to hear, but it is who I am. And I think that the Republican Party should be that way. They should be the party that says that. So should the Democrats, by the way. Everyone should be, So I don't think I'm doing anything to hurt the Republicans. I think I'm trying to bolster their image to say that, that's what was going on. But having said that, some of the things that I think, another strength I have that I think I could bring to the table is I'm a younger person. And the Republicans need to reach out to young people. They're absolutely getting devastated, and for various reasons. One, it's because the Democrats are actually putting forth young people, which helps. Second, you have to understand why people like Bernie Sanders was popular. I understand what it's like to be someone who's... My wife would argue with me that I'm young, maybe. 34, she would say. I'm becoming an old... I certainly got the gray beard hairs to show it. But, we... as a young person, they're putting forth young people, and as a young person who graduated and has a ton of student loan debt, and I graduated high school in 2002, and it was just assumed back there. I don't know if I assume it's very similar now because one of my brothers just graduated high school about 4 years ago now, 3-4 years ago, and it was kind of similar, but it was there was this you have to go to college. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. You just have to do it. And so you were kind of told in the process of that, which I disagree with that in general, but that's for a different time. But in the process of that, you were also kind of told, you put your nose to the grindstone, you graduate 4, maybe 5 years. In my case, it took a little longer. But you put your nose to the grindstone, and then you come out on the other end, and bam, you got it made. You're going to have this career, and things like that. And then, so you're all full of hope, and, you're working hard, and you get through it, and then it's you come out with all the student debt, and it turns out the degree you have, there aren't these high-paying jobs. I know in the healthcare field, I know there's a lot of people. The position I currently occupy is literally just working in the homes with people, and that doesn't require a degree. But there are people above me that it does require a degree, and they're like, man, I'm not even making enough to, I might as well, started a job right out of high school. I'd be making as much as I am now. How am I going to pay these loans back? There's so many people like that. And I get the appeal of this idea of free tuition. We'll wipe out student debt. Free income, universal income for everyone. Those types of ideas because things look pretty bleak. But that's not, in my opinion, the right way to go. I advocate a more free market policy plan. An idea of personal responsibility, personal freedom, which I will put... I'm not in this video. I'm not really talking about my specific policy positions that much, and I will put out a policy position about education and what we could do on that. Now, but I think that message sounds better coming from me than it would coming from someone who's older. You at least have to talk to that group, and that's one of the problems with the Republicans. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I have. There's a lot in the education system that, if you're really interested in reading in this and kind of what's kind of the bubble that has become academia, read Jonathan Haidt, who's kind of a left-wing person, and he's fair. He's not hyperbolic or something. And he started what's called the Heterodox Academy, and they do very good studies talking about how exponentially, it's something in most universities now, it's 90% of faculty self-register as left-leaning or Democrats, usually less than 8% is conservative or right-wing. And that's fine at a particular university, but when you see that case over and over again, even if you're well-intended, what ends up happening is after generation, you end up with kind of this bubble where the idea of the universe, and by the way, just if you're a liberal, that doesn't mean you can't be an awesome professor and can't encourage arguments from the other side. Not at all. But it's just when we see these numbers over and over, generation and generation, what ends up happening is we're starting to lose sight of what universities were supposed to be about, which contentious ideas that were coming together. It's even if the professor believes one thing, you're facilitating, civil discourse, civil debates. Sometimes it makes you uncomfortable, and we're starting to see the end of that seems to, a lot of cases, no longer be the case. So Heterodox Academy, it's cool. They got all kinds of professors to sign on, left and right-leaning ones, because there's a lot of professors in the left that also realize this. Jonathan Haidt being one of them. So, yeah, there's a lot that need to be done at universities. But, yeah, so my policies isn't that of Cortez or Bernie's, but I understand the appeal of that. If you're someone who's not doing well financially, regardless of your age. Yeah, I'll have to read that, Han. Yeah, we definitely, and I know me and you have large differences on a lot of things like, when it comes to education, but I think that's something we could both agree on. We both appreciate the idea that it's important to, even if your desire is to produce the best left-wing advocate, the best possible thing you could do is open them up to arguments from the other side and vice versa. Your position will become so much more honed if you have people that are challenging back on you. That's what we should all desire. So if you really think you have the right ideas, then you should really want to debate those ideas. You should really want people to argue against them. That's and I think we both agree on that. It's something we need to do. So anyways, so I think that regardless if you agree with me or not on my proposals for what we should do for young people, or other socialized programs like Medicare for All, the point is, like, you at least have to be talking to those groups, and I feel like the Republicans have not done as good of a job as they can. They've kind of ceded that, which, by the way, if I was going to give argument to Democrats, I would say I feel like the Democrats have kind of, like, they kind of left flyover country. They kind of, what they call flyover country, I think that's insulting, but the idea of, like, the Rust Belt and these places, where manufacturing jobs and stuff, they kind of, regardless if they want to admit it or not, and I'm sure if you talk to them, they'd say, oh no, we care about those people, but they're not talking to those people. So I think that as someone who's a Republican, I'm in a unique position where I could say, I could reach these demographics, or at least talk to them, and say, this is why I think our party's message is better for you. We're not ignoring you. And it is true. The trope is, the Republican Party historically has been like, we hope that women and minority voter turnout is low so that we could win. I want to change that to be the Republican Party saying, we hope that women and minority voter turnout is awesome and we want them voting for us because we're speaking directly to them. That's my goal. That's something that I think that I could achieve. Being younger, I think that I understand that better. I could particularly reach young groups better. And I think I have a better understanding of how to use technology to reach people like that. And I would advocate talking directly to those constituents and those demographics. I think that they're all important. Again, all their voice. Even if they're in those groups and they don't like me and they don't like my ideas, it's important to hear from those voices. So that's another strength that I think I'd have, that I'd be able to bring that. I also think that, I have a very good ability to speak and to articulate and to give my opinions and my ideas for things to a wide-ranging audience. And that is debate. It's helped me with that, where I could talk at the most sophisticated level to some of the most intelligent students or judges in college. But then I could take that same material and talk to a novice debater that it's their first tournament and do well at helping them. And then I could go out to someone who's never even heard of policy debate and still talk to them about the same subject. And be able to be successful on all three of those avenues. And I think that's important. That's what a lot of politicians are missing. You have politicians that are very good at being politicians and very good at talking to the political class. And then you have politicians that are very good at talking straight to people, but they don't know how to convey the people's message to the political class. And I think I'm in a unique position to do both. And not to be pandering and not to being fake with one group or the other. I think that I really can talk with just about anyone from any background and have a serious conversation, And one of the keys is, and I hate to act, one of the things I hate about this whole process is that I have to brag about myself. Now, don't get me wrong, I love bragging about myself in a joking manner, but like to seriously be like, that was one of the bad parts I always was at interviews, like, tell us about what's good about yourself. I'm kind of like, I'm not trying to brag, But this is the nature of campaigning. I guess you have to do that. So, but here's something that maybe someone can take a lesson from. Like, sometimes when you'd be in debate or something, you don't even have to be in the game of debate. Like, it could be any competitive activity or just a conversation. Sometimes you realize that whoever you're dealing with is not even close to your level at whatever it is, And my advice is, like, you could lose by winning. Like, if you blow someone out so bad, it's just, okay, good for you, I guess. But what did you really do? And so when you're having conversations with someone, and it took me a long time to learn this. whether it be in the game of debate or just in real life, and it's clear it's like, they don't know what you're talking about. There's two ways to go about it, You could just be like, what? You're such an... You actually think that there weren't Democrats that voted for the Iraq War? What an idiot. Yeah, I'm done talking to you. Right? Or you could be like, oh, actually, some Democrats did vote. But yeah, I see your point. I see what you're saying. But yeah. And that second approach is so much better. You don't want to be condescending to people, even if you're convinced that you're right. Like, you should try to genuinely try to listen to someone. Now, does that mean they might be totally wrong? They might be arrogant to you. And I certainly am not perfect. If people come at you with an attitude, it's human nature to come back with an attitude. But I'm just saying, it's a good thing in general to just be that way. And if you're like that, and you honestly believe that, you're not just doing it to, because I'm trying to win an argument, then all of a sudden you find you could talk to people of varying levels, and it's not a problem. You don't have to pretend to be something. You keep up with them. It just becomes natural to you. And I think that's something I'm pretty good at. So that's another strength I have. And I also think in addition to being able to talk and communicate and do things like that well, and do it in a genuine way, I do think I have a great understanding of policy positions. That's another thing that debate helped, but also outside of debate, I'm kind of a nerd that likes reading this stuff, and I'm going to give my honest opinion about stuff. I understand that here's something that, like, I never got the big complaint with the idea of flip-flopping. Now, I got to be careful saying this because I'm not saying I'm going to be a flip-flopper. But let's say someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who was against gay marriage like in 2004 or something like that, and now genuinely believes, okay, times have changed, I'm now for gay marriage. That's not a terrible thing to me. You know what I mean? She listened to people, she got to know people, and was like, okay. Like, we all need to, in all of our positions, you're a zealot if you say, I'm unwilling to listen to other evidence. I'm unwilling to listen to the other side. That makes you a zealot. And there's two things, right? Again, like I'm always saying, there's kind of the moral way to look at things and then the strategic way. Morally, that's just wrong. Because you could be wrong, one. And second, it's just wrong to shut people out like that. But secondly, strategically, it's wrong too. Because even if you're right, you catch more flies with honey. You're not going to convince people acting that way, having that kind of attitude. You're not going to get people in the middle. And you saw, I did a video, which y'all should check out, on civility and why it's important. And basically, here's my idea. There's 5 groups of people that any of us deal with when we're articulating a position. There are people that will agree with almost anything we say, no matter what happens. And there are people that will disagree with almost anything, no matter what happens, right? You shouldn't ignore those 2 groups, but your conversation, like, you're probably not going to change many minds in those 2 groups. And that's not really who you're most... Even if you're talking... Like, you have to understand, like, if I'm talking to this one person online, we're typing on a website, right? And I'm talking to that one person. It's not just that one person reading. It's everyone else, too. And there's a lot of people on those websites, like Facebook, for example. If you type something on Facebook, the overwhelming majority of people that read that aren't going to respond. So if you're arguing with someone on Facebook, you have to understand there's an audience outside of that argument, right? So you're not going to really change these 2 people in the extremely are with you or extremely against you, right? But then there's kind of 3 other groups too. There's people that are partially with you or kind of with you, but they're flexible, kind of against you, but are flexible, and people that are indifferent or ignorant, not in a bad way, but just don't know what you're talking about or something like that. Those are the groups that you really have a chance to move. You really have the chance for your opinion to have some sort of, meaningful impact on. Now, does that mean you don't talk to these people in the groups? No, I'm not saying that. And when you realize that, right, you being a jerk and like just being super self-confident and, I'm right and everyone else is wrong, like that doesn't work. You have to be willing. It works so much better if those groups are willing to see, wow, he was actually willing to hear arguments from the other side, and he, tried to be civil. Now, the reason I'm so confident in my positions is because I've done that with all these policies. I have friends that I'm talking with. We go to the bar. We're talking about politics, Or you're online. You're talking to people on websites. You're talking about politics. People that agree with you. People that disagree. And so the positions that I have on almost all issues have been honed by people that agree and disagree with me. And I'm trying to read stuff. And so I'm not opposed to hearing people with other opinions. The chances are I'm not going to radically change my policy after one conversation with someone, but we should always be seeking to update. We should always be seeking to get feedback from people that agree and disagree with us, you know? So I'm confident. I'm not someone who's going to go in and going to be like, oh, I had this stance. I said that I wanted to be a fiscal conservative, but I talked to this one guy and now, the heck with it. Who cares about fiscal conservatism? No, I'm not going to do that. That's clear. And that's not the way things happen anyways, right? The people that do that, that's the real flip-floppers. If you have a position one week and then all of a sudden the next week you totally flip, okay, there's a problem with that. The way things work is gradual changes, Oh, I see this and I see this, But we should be seeking to do that. Let me read some of the comments here. Yeah, I mean, that's Truth Seeker. That's one of the. You're absolutely right. And I was talking about this earlier, but yeah, it's worth re-mentioning, which is. I don't know. Right now, I don't know a lot of the other nominees for the Republicans, But I could say this. I had talked to Glenn Thompson before this special election came up, who is my representative from the district I live in now, and I told him that I was going to run. And I think I maybe said this on video, but I certainly told it to his campaign manager. I will not run a negative campaign. I will not. That doesn't mean I'll say, hey, GT voted for this and I'm against it, or, I would do this better than GT. I'm not one of these people that's going to be running around saying, he was a terrible person. He did this in high school. Let's look at his high school yearbooks. I don't know the candidates I'm running against now, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't do that, but I don't want to. But I do know who the Democrat will be. He's already been picked. So if I win the nomination, I know. And I'm telling you right now, I will not. And if anyone tries to run like crappy negative ads against him, I will distance myself from that and say, no, that is not what I want. Leave the man speak. Let's hear his policies. Let's hear his ideas. I don't want to assassinate his character. I want to hear his ideas. Let the people decide. Here's my ideas. Here's his ideas. It's so... what do we gain from the... Is anyone... I know, I don't... This is rhetorical because I know the answer to this, but is anyone else tired of, like, anytime you turn on the television during election season, it's just like, holy cow, these hyperbolic ads, like, my opponent is the most evil person that's ever existed. He's just in the pocket of Big Pharma and wants to screw everyone over. This person, wants to take all the guns and kill every baby that's ever born. It's like, look, you could say they voted for this policy which could lead to X, but this hyperbolic, like, the menacing music and stuff, it's just like, no, it's not who I am. And I think we could run a politics where you say, I respect my opponent, I disagree with them. Like, that's what we need to be. And so that's exactly right. I'm trying to be the example. It doesn't matter if I win or lose. I know that, and like I've said this, like, let's say, I can't think of anything in my past, but I'm sure we all have things in our past that we wouldn't want broadcast, whether it be a yearbook photo. My yearbooks were pretty harmless, but you know what I mean? We all have something, I would guess. I can't think of anything particular now, but let's say in the future, I tell a joke that's deemed offensive or racist, right? And then I'd have people saying, I'm a politician, and they might say, step down. You know what they'll never be able to say, though? They'll never be able to say, here was Rob saying that Al Franken had to step down for a crappy joke. Or here was Rob saying that this Democrat had to step down for a crappy joke. You want to know why? Because I'll never say that. And so even if something like that would come up in my life, I'll sleep well at night knowing I'm not a hypocrite. I put forth the example I wanted to see. Does that mean we don't all make mistakes? Of course we do. That's not the point. But I'm saying I'm not going to be someone that says punish anyone for any mistake, never forgive, and then say, oh, but for me it's different. I'm going to be what I'd like to see to the best of my ability. That's just how I look at it. So that's kind of where I am. Now, I will be putting videos out. I know a lot of my videos, one of the things about me is I'm long-winded. I'm going to be I already put one up on healthcare. I'm going to be putting specific policy videos up that are going to be about 3 minutes a clip. And I'll be trying to do at least one of those a day. I have like 16, 17 days until the nomination. So I'll be trying to get those out. Those will be on my YouTube channel, and they'll be... I forget what the title I put on it, but it'll be like campaign position and then healthcare, campaign position, foreign policy. That's how they'll be labeled. So you'll be able to check those out, or maybe if you're not interested in me running, you can skip over those if you want, but that's fine. But I'll be outlining more of my positions there. So what have I done so far? So first I got from the state GOP, they sent first before any info was out, I'm calling people. It's really hard because it's such a rural district. It's hard to find like who's in the GOP in these specific counties. It was difficult to find, but I did my best. I got a hold of some people, and then I called the state level. Excuse me. And the state then sent me a questionnaire, so I had to do a background check myself, which came up pretty good. Traffic violation, that was the only thing that came up really negative. Though it did have that, it said that I didn't vote in a lot of it, which is true. Like, I think I voted in 3 of the last 12. I don't know how many of the primaries I did, but, I've only been eligible to vote in, like, 3 major elections, and I think I voted in all 2008, 2012, 2016. Though I guess, 2004 I would have been. I don't know if I did. Anyways, nevertheless. So I filled out the questionnaire, and then you had to wait to get the list of conferees. So there were 202 conferees, which hopefully some of them watch this. That would be fantastic. And then they sent you their contact information. So I individualized emails and sent to each one of them. I've called every media joint I could find in the district, local newspapers and things like that. And I sent them kind of, not really a press release, but a partial press release and a request for an interview. So far, I think it was the Center County Times, I believe it's the name of the paper, has posted a little blurb about me. And I know there are 24 people running. So in that blurb, I was one of only 6 candidates that they mentioned. So I would assume that means the other candidates didn't submit anything to them yet. And then the Express and Lock Haven got in touch with me, and as did the Sun Gazette out of Williamsport. And so they got a picture from me. They didn't really interview me much, but they kind of took just biographical. So that stuff will be coming out, and I'll link that to my campaign page. So that's something I'm trying to do. One of the ideas that, me and my campaign manager had was, in the general election, we want to get the college Republicans involved because we think it's important to get younger people involved. And so I reached out to all of the universities in the area, their college Republican department. I haven't heard back from any yet. But if one of them by chance would be able to watch this, I think it'll be great for several reasons. One, I will actually you will actually have a real position in my campaign. You would be someone that I would listen to, that I would count on for help. You would have an important role. Second, this is going to be a national story because it's the only election, as a special election, it's all that'll be going on then. And so you'll have the chance to, it won't just be like a little local campaign. You'll actually get real world experience working on a national level campaign with a national spotlight on it. And so it'll be good personally for people's career that would help out, but also good to show that there could be youth in the Republican Party that's really good. And so I think they would be enthusiastic and able to help. I haven't heard, I need to get a hold of Turning Point. I haven't heard anything back from any of them, but that was one of the ideas we had. We thought that was a good idea. Some of the things we had to come up with, like potential budgets and things like that. I will be refusing to take money from large corporations. I will take individual donations, but not from corporations. Now, I want to be clear. I don't know, like, legally what could these large corporations then donate to the Republicans, and then they're spending money on me? I don't know. I don't know, so I can't say that something like that wouldn't happen. But I personally will not take those donations for my campaign. I just won't. So that's something that a lot of people are like, But I think that we could we run these campaign. See, that gets into questions of legality. I'm going to be as ethically on the up and up as I can, just because that's who I am. And again, it's not just about me winning. It's about me running a campaign like I'd like to see them ran. So that's things. I'm not taking any donations whatsoever for the nomination process. Once we clear that bridge, if I win the nomination, then we'll start working on donations and things like that. But it is what it is. I want to rely on, I already have an itinerary that I've sent out to everyone of basically visiting almost every major town in District 12. And it'll be over like a 2 to 3 month period where I will be done with my job. It'll be full time, that I will be spending basically every day in communities talking to the average voters, the average constituents. That's what I think needs to happen most. Maybe I talk to the constituents and they say, we don't like your ideas. That's fine. But that's the plan. That's what I seek to do. So we're ready on that front. Other things is I sent these emails to everyone specifically. I considered just calling everyone. It could take 100 hours to have a conversation with all of these people. I don't know exactly how long it would take because I'm not exactly someone who has brief conversations. And if I call someone and they have questions for me, I'm not going to cut them off unless I literally have to. So they could be long conversations. But I don't know, like, is that rude to just call people? So I sent the individualized emails out first. I will then, in 3 or 4 days, be sending out more emails, and then eventually be trying to call people that I haven't heard from, is the plan. I'm also going to try to attend at least one breakfast that I'm going to be attending with people in certain counties. So, yeah, 146 hours. Yeah, that's while working a 60-hour-a-week job in 17 days. Yeah, it would be brutal. So I don't know that that'll happen. One of the ideas that me and my manager came up with, I'm not going to request. I do know, because of the one questionnaire that got sent to me, that there are 24 candidates. I only know 6 of their names, and the only reason I know their names are because they've been in papers, so it's been publicly acknowledged. So I won't request from the state GOP the names of the other candidates. But the ones that I've seen publicly, we're trying to reach out to and set up some sort of debate. Rather that be, I would prefer it to be an in-person debate where we could get like someone to actually moderate and get like a convention hall or something like that. Make sure it's filmed, make sure all the conferees get access to this film, have a fair moderator so it's not skewed to one person or another. And there's several reasons for doing this. The first is, I believe in being as transparent as possible. I think that the goal of the candidate should be to get as much of their information as possible out there to as many people as possible. And then the goal of the voter, or in this case the conferee, should be to do their due diligence to try to, find out what's important to them and find out information and make an informed decision. And for me, an open forum like this would be the greatest way to do that. That doesn't mean you're sitting there yelling at each other or anything like that. It'd be totally civil. It wouldn't have to be a debate like, well, I think you're wrong about this. It could just be an area like a town hall where we just have people ask questions. But that, to me, seems like a great idea. Secondly, I think each person, if you're another candidate that happens to be watching this, I think it helps you individually, because isn't the reason we're running that we all think we have the best ideas? So if we have those ideas, we want to tell people, right? So it gives you a chance to get your platform out there. And even if you don't win, and even if I don't win, maybe my idea, one of my ideas, I say, the eventual winner says, hey, it was a great idea. That's something I'll advocate for. So that's how we get good ideas as a party and as just in general, as politicians. And the third reason is, if you're looking at this as Republican versus Democrat, the Democrat's already been picked, so he's already campaigning for the general election. Meanwhile, it's the advantage Trump will have over the Democrats in 2020, where you'll have 20 Democrats bickering and fighting and, et cetera, and then it's going to be against Trump. So Trump's already out there campaigning. Now, granted, the Democrats are campaigning too, but they're also campaigning against each other. I think this would give us a great opportunity to have a general election where the average public, instead of it just being some process where it's just candidates talking to conferees, let's do something that we could videotape and put publicly out there, invite the public to ask questions. So this is kind of campaigning for the general election as well, which I think is a really good thing. If I win the general election, I will be trying my best to get on a stage with the Democratic candidate as much as possible. I think debates are great. I'd love to get in the stage with them. I'm not going to shy away. One of the reasons Friedenberg's, I believe is his name, the Democratic candidate that's running, you have to ask yourself, I'm running because I want to help people and because I want the campaign to be good, or because this is how I want campaigns to be ran, and so I'm trying to do everything that way. But it's also a competition, right? Which I love competition, and you're still playing to win, and I am playing to win. And you have to ask yourself, if you're the Republicans, what will the Democratic strategy be? So what do we know about this district? We know that in 2018, it went heavily, heavily Republican for Tom Marino. We know that Tom Marino was going to be considered to be Trump's drug czar, but I have no evidence that this was illegal or anything, but he took money from the pharmaceutical company, and it would be a bad look to appoint someone whose job is to look at pharmaceutical companies who had financially benefited, even if just his campaign, through pharmaceutical companies. So he wasn't chosen. He got elected, and 3 days after he's elected, he decides he wants to go work in the private sector, which is fine. I mean, I don't know what that means, and I'm not going to pass judgment. Working on the private sector could mean he's going and he's making $10 an hour working with, UNICEF or something, the Red Cross. I don't know. Maybe he's doing good work. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to me at this point. What I do know is how the Democrats will frame it, and they have every right to frame it. They'll say, oh, well, who are the Republicans going to put up this time that will resign after 3 days to take a private sector job? What big business money is he going to take, And so that's why I think that it's not just I'm operating ethically, which I am, but I'm also operating strategically. The ethics, it's nice when doing the right thing also happens to be the best thing to do, you know. And so they won't be able to say that to me. That'll be one of their big, I'll say I didn't take the money. Like, I won't. In fact, you know, and then the other thing, the reason he ran in the first place was they tried to set up town halls with his sitting congressperson, and the sitting congressperson didn't show up, apparently. I don't know the background of this. I just hear this story from their side. But, so then he was like, well, then I'll run, because, and his big, the 2-time, when he's ran the past, because he was by the way, the reason I know all this is because he actually ran and lost to Tom Marino in the 2018 election. So the Democrats have put forth the same person. He was upset about the lack of transparency and the fact that the Republican didn't talk to the constituents enough. I will be the exact opposite. So those are the two strengths that he has. I will be more transparent. I will be more open to talking to constituents. I'll be more open to talking to him. And so I think that takes a lot of the thunder. And so then, okay, now let's talk about specific policies. And I'm quite confident that the people of District 12, which are heavily, heavily right-wing, will prefer my policies over his policies. And so I think that I not only have a chance to win as well as Tom Marino, I think I have a chance to reach groups he didn't. Because you have to understand, Center County and like some of state colleges in this district, and that went to the Democrats last time. I think I could make a lot of inroads there because those people know I'm willing to listen to them. I'll be honest about my positions, but I think they'll be like, okay. So, you know, that's what I've been doing. So I'm trying to set up this debate, and I think that'll be, I'm hoping that'll be a good idea. And it's something that'll work out for me. If no one responds, you know, then I just say, hey, you know, I tried to reach out to people, no one to respond. That's fine, no hard feelings. But, you know, I'm going to then do, you know, whatever I'll still try to do a forum, you know. I'll try to get the public somewhere. I'll try to have them ask questions, you know. That would be tough to come up with something like that in 16 days. So it'll probably be online. It'll probably be a video. But, you know, I want people to hear from me. So, that's as far as the campaign goes. That's about all I can think of right now. I got tons of stuff to work on after this live stream. I'll be working on, like I said, I got people working on logos, people working on songs for me, a website. If I win the not the primary is not the word. If I win the nomination, then for the general election, I have a website that someone's working on me that I would run. What someone asked me earlier was like, what happens if I win or if I lose? So let's say I win the nomination. I immediately quit my job. I'm trying to talk to my job and let them know, is there any way I could just take like a sabbatical where it's like I'll be gone for 3 months, but then if I don't win the seat to come back to work? I don't know what they'll say about that, so we'll see. But they're a pretty fair company, so hopefully they'll be okay with that. But you have to be realistic. Like, so let me first say this. You have to be realistically, what are my chances of winning the nomination? Probably not very high. Not because I'm not qualified, not because I don't think I'm the best. I do think that I'll be the best candidate. I think I'll be exactly like the type of person that we should have in Washington. I do believe that, right? But there's so many people that are going to vote for people they personally know, or that are going to, you know, people that are close to them, people that have been in the system and well connected. And that's fine. That's still a fair process as long as, you know, I get equal access. And so far, like I said, everything's been fair. No one's been wrong. Oh, I'm confident. I know the work we've put out, and I've talked to people. Like, some of the stuff we've put out, we've sent so many documents, PowerPoints. I've filled out so many questionnaires, so many policy positions. They're good. Like, I'm definitely confident. But it'll be hard to overcome this stuff. So, now, having said that, if I win the nomination, what are my chances of winning the general election? Immensely high. Really, really high. You have to understand, this district is probably the most Republican district in the state. The Democrat lost here as bad as Trump lost in California. So in other words, a Democrat's chance of winning here would be similar to the chances of Trump winning in California. Does that mean I won't take the general election seriously? Absolutely not. I'm taking it as serious, like utterly serious. That's why I'd be quitting my job, right? So as it stands, If I run and I don't win, then I spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, and hopefully I get a lot of, hopefully a lot of good comes out of it. I personally learned stuff. Maybe some of my positions, the person who eventually wins pushes for, and I feel good that, I did my little part to show. I tried to do something, It took me a lot of time, energy, and money, but I tried, and maybe it's something I'll try again in the future. I don't know. But that would be that. If I win the nomination, then I would quit my job. So what the worst, I win the nomination, I quit my job, and then I don't win the general election. Well, then I look for a new job. It's that simple. Now, obviously, if I win the nomination and I win the election, then I get right to work. And my campaign manager probably comes with me, and I start to get a staff together, and I go to Washington, and I do the best I can. That's what I'm going for. I'm going to put it in. The amount of energy and hard work I'm putting in now is what I'll put in as an elected official. And I joked around with my campaign managers. We're both up till 2 a.m. doing stuff like, man, these people that have been career politicians, they must not work like this or they'd be burned out, Once you get there, it's like, woo, time to relax, So that's what we're going on. Now, if I lose the nomination or if I don't win, what would I do with the media stuff? Yeah, I'm still going to push for it. First off, even if I win, even though this YouTube channel as it exists wouldn't be quite the same, I will still be connecting to people I would like on a weekly basis about what I've been up to and things like that. And so I would still be using social media and still be using YouTube to do that. If I don't win, then yeah, that's absolutely... I don't know that I would run again in 2020, but I definitely will be continuing the channel. And I definitely, one of the reasons I ran was to let people know how the process went. Again, so far, I have nothing to complain about. I thought the process has been pretty fair. So that's kind of, I'll still work on the media, and I think I'll have more to say because I'll have went through the process. I'll have tried something. One thing also that I was trying to do that I forgot to mention is I've tried my hardest sending email after email after email, calling any number I could to get on any kind of national press, whether it be right-wing or left-wing, and it's just, I can't get any response from anyone. So I'm trying my hardest, I really am, but, it is what it is. So, yeah, hopefully, it will be a national election, though, so if I win the nomination, there will be national media exposure. So, yeah, did anybody have any specific questions? There's stuff I could talk about that's going on in the news. This omnibus bill is a travesty. 1,000-something pages in it. That's another thing, policy I'm going to have that I'm going to put a video up. Enough of this. Releasing bills. Both sides do it. Release 1,000-page bills in the middle of the night and then have votes the next day. Nope. No. Dan Crenshaw is one of my favorite up-and-coming freshman congressmen. He was like, yeah, I'm not voting for it. And get a chance to read it. Absolutely right. I'm not a fan of Trump cheering for this, declaring national emergency to executively use money for the wall. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's AOC drumming out Amazon from New York City and then claiming she saved New York a bunch of money is kind of ridiculous. The Covington thing, it's a huge story. It's one of the things that spurred me to want to run and do more was, they deserve to get sued. I don't know legally exactly. I'm not an expert in the law, but stuff like that needs to stop. That's one of the most grotesque examples you'll see of actually actively covering for adult black racists yelling at children, and a Native American man who said that those black racists that were yelling some of the most homophobic and racist things you could imagine at children had a lot of good points and were telling those kids uncomfortable truths they needed to hear. That's what he said. So he was standing in solidarity with them. That's what they said. That the media actively downplayed or deflected or covered up and went to smear kids based merely on identity politics. It's a good thing that there's lawsuits coming out from that. So, but yeah, I will keep people posted with what's going on with the campaign. Again, if you're someone who's like, oh, this stuff's boring, get back to the regular stuff. It's 3 weeks. If I lose, it's 3 weeks. I'll be back. If I don't lose, then hopefully you'll be happy for me that, maybe someone that you listen to on YouTube is going to have an active role in Congress, which would be cool. So you could look for that. You could look for me putting out more stuff geared towards my campaign with my videos that I have coming out. I'm going to be working a lot. If you're on websites with me where I comment a lot, I probably won't be commenting as much. just because it's so time consuming. It's going to be hard to do. And I'm trying to think anything else. Yeah, wish me luck. If you have anything you need to email me about, let me change the name of this before I go. Uh, Thank you. Yeah. Then yeah, just let me know. Get in touch with me. So, but I really appreciate everyone listening in, and yeah, look forward to hearing from me soon. Be putting out these policy specific videos, and hopefully the next live stream I got some more good news to tell people. So thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good one.